Good afternoon. We're going to be continuing with the Maimer Gal Einai Ve'abita that we began in the last segment, which is a Chassidic discourse with regard to Lag BaOmer. And as we explained in the last segment, Lag BaOmer is the day of the Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, of the inner dimension, the mystical dimension of the Torah. So on page 121, chapter 3, Umavar Ba Maimer, this is referring back to the Rebbe Maharash's Maimer, the discourse of the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe. In it, he writes in the Maimer cited previously that Rabbi Marash explains that there are two levels of the wonders of Torah, which are just Pnimiyus Ha-Torah. To explain the Isa B'Zayar Shebatera Yash Levush Guf Neshama Uneshama L'Neshama. To explain, the Zayar states that the Torah possesses a garment, a body, a soul, and a soul of the soul. What is a garment? So first of all, we have to understand a garment is a foreign body, a foreign entity, not the person himself. A body is part of the person's own being, but it is merely a body is part of the person's own being, but it is merely his external dimension. It is, by way of analogy, a garment for the soul. For in and of itself, the body does not reflect the person's identity, who he truly is. So it's specifically the soul, the person's intellect, the person's emotions, those are the things that identify the person. The soul is a person's I, the source of his energy, feelings, and thoughts. However, within the soul itself, there are two general levels: the soul, which controls the person's conscious functioning, and the soul of the soul, which is his inner godly core, the ultimate source of every dimension of his being. So there are two levels within soul itself. So we have a garment, we have the body which is a garment for the soul, and then the soul's inner core, which is the neshama, it's the soul of the soul. It's the deeper dimension, deepest dimension. The revealed dimension with respect to the Torah. How would we break this down? So Galya the Torah hu alavush v'haguf the Torah, the revealed dimension of the Torah is the Torah's garment and body. Vasipurim the Torah levush v'halach is the Torah haguf. The stories of the Torah are its garment, while the Torah's laws are its body. So the stories of the Torah are like the garment, and the Torah's laws are its body. Now here in the commentary, they write as follows: the stories of the Torah relate godly truth as reflected in the events that transpired in the world. Thus, they involve external entities because they relate to things that exist within the realm of the world. In other words, events that transpired in the world. So therefore, they involve. This is like the external expression of the divine. Hence, they are described as garments. So if we needed a metaphor for them, we would use the metaphor of garments, because they're on the outside. The Torah's laws express God's will and wisdom. However, they express his will and wisdom in physical terms, as they relate to our physical reality, not as they exist in their source. Accordingly, they are described as the Torah's body, because the law relates to the physical, relates to the material, relates to the practical, to the tangible. And those are all external expressions of the divine. What about the internal? So he says on page 122, the soul of the Torah is Pnimiyus Ha-Torah, the Torah's inner mystic dimensions. Now this also subdivides into two levels. So there's Razin Deiraisa, there's the Torah's secrets, its hidden dimensions, Sasin the Nishmasa, its soul. Razin Deiraisa meaning Sasin, Nishmasa, it's the first level of soul. But Razin de Razin and its secrets of secrets, Stima, the whole Stima in which what is hidden beyond all hidden is the soul of the soul, Nishmasa and Nishmasa. Now, when the request of David HaMelech is submitted, in other words, the intent over here of David HaMelech's request, the request, open my eyes, open my eyes and I will gaze at wonders from your Torah. Using the plural of wonders reflects the wish, to see the two levels of wonders in the Torah, both the secrets and the secrets of the secrets. In the Maimer, that Marash proceeds to explain that the soul is identified with the dimensions of the soul, referred to as nefesh, ruach, and neshama, the soul's conscious dimensions. Nefesh refers to the dimensions of the soul that governs a person's actions. That's the lowest level, the nefesh. Ruach reflects the soul, the source of his emotions. In other words, it's more related to things like emotion. Emotion is kind of something that comes and goes. It's always in flux. It isn't always the same. It's not stationary. It's not constant. And just like air isn't either constant. It's always on the move. And neshama, that of his intellect, and neshama always is a reference to the intellect. These dimensions of the soul are enclosed in the body and affected by it. So these lower levels, which are referred to as nishmasa, are the nefesh. We would categorize the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, meaning the intellect and the emotion, as well as the lowest animating part of the neshama, which is the dimension of the soul that governs a person's actions. That's the nefesh. We would all include that. We would include all that, all those three within the category of nishmasa. The soul of the soul is identified with the dimensions of the soul referred to as chaya and yechida, meaning the inner dimensions of the soul that transcend its conscious functioning. They are above being enclosed in the body and are not affected by whatever changes the body undergoes. So let's just unpack this for a moment. The Medrash tells us, and it's brought down in Chassidus and it's brought down in the Zohar, that there are 5 levels of the neshama. Now, it could be that the Zohar refers to 4 of them, but the Medrash certainly makes reference to 5 different distinct levels of neshama. Chamisha shemes nikrula, that the neshama is referred to with 5 different names. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida. So what the Rebbe is explaining here is that if we want to look at the neshama of Torah, if we want to understand the various levels of the neshama of Torah, we need to also use the parallel of the neshama as it exists within the human realm. So within the human realm, the neshama has 5 levels. What's the first level? Nefesh, that relates to our actions. Ruach relates to our emotions. Neshama relates to our intellect. Within the Torah itself, you also have these 3, and they all fall under the category of nishmasa, of the soul. What about nishmasa linishmasa, the soul of the souls? So just like we have a parallel to that in the human soul, which is chaya and yechida, the 2 uppermost levels of the soul, we also have the parallel of that in Torah as well. We have nishmasa linishmasa, the soul of the soul. Page 123, perhaps it is possible to suggest, to say, Pnimiyus Ha-Torah that the aspects of Pnimiyus Ha-Torah that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai revealed over the course of his life reflected the soul of the Torah, the soul of the Torah. And those aspects that he revealed on the day of his passing reflect the soul of the soul. So to understand the distinction between that which he revealed on the day of his passing relative to what he revealed during his lifetime, we can understand it based on the 2 distinctions, based on the 2 categories we drew a distinction between earlier with regard to the human soul. Just like within the human soul you have the neshama, which incorporates the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, intellect, emotion, and action, and that's basically the conscious part of the person. In a similar way, we have nishmasa l'nishmasa. We have a whole different category. We have the level of chaya and yechida. Chaya and yechida is understood to be that part of the neshama that either sees godliness, and out of its apprehension of godliness, based on its sight, based on what it beholds, it cannot allow the soul or whatever it's able to hold under its control, under its sway. It cannot allow that to deviate from the lifestyle or from the spirit of what it is viewing, of what it is seeing. It needs to follow because it's seeing the truth. But seeing still implies that there is an observer, and there is that which is being seen by the observer. The higher level of the neshama is so deep, so profound. The yechida is one, yachid, yechida, yachid. Yachid means one, oneness, singularity. The neshama experiences deep within itself a sense of singularity, a sense of oneness, of unity with God, to the point where it's not even necessary to see, to observe the truth. It simply knows it innately, it knows it inherently. This is the way it is. And therefore, it's a much deeper commitment, a deeper connection to the divine. So these are two different separations, two different distinctions within the soul, nefesh, ruach, neshama, that's categorized as nishmasa. And then you have another category called neshama, the soul of the soul, and that would include chaya and yechida, the two higher levels of the neshama. And the same also goes for the Torah. You have nishmasa and nishmasa l'nishmasa. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai revealed that part of the Torah which parallels to the neshama of the Eiraisa, the neshama of the Torah during the balance of his lifetime. On the last day of his life, that's when he revealed the most profound and the most sublime concepts. This is referred to as nishmasa l'nishmasa, the soul of the soul. Now, there's a note over here. Note number 5, I'm just going to read it so that we could also benefit from this important point. One of the differences between the dimensions of the soul referred to as nefesh, ruach, and neshama, meaning the soul, which we just explained is the neshama, and those referred to as chaya and yechida, the soul of the soul, is that yechida, is that nefesh, ruach, and neshama are enclosed within the body, while the chaya and yechida transcend being enclosed in the body altogether. It is possible to relate this concept to the uniqueness of the teachings revealed by Reb Shimon Bar Yochai on the day of his passing. When a soul passes away, it rises above the limitations of the vessels of the body. In a general sense, that means that it functions on the level of chaya and yechida that transcend being enclosed in the body. When Reb Shimon Bar Yochai desired to pass from this world, this dimension of his soul shined forth for him, even though then his soul was still enclosed in the body. Therefore, he revealed the soul of the Torah at that time. So his point here is, and it's a beautiful idea, a beautiful point, is that when it came time for Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's neshama to depart, it was functioning at a wavelength of yechida, meaning it was no longer functioning at the ordinary level of, where there's a hierarchy of intellect and emotion and action, where one leads to the next, where there's a structure, there's a framework. Instead, he was functioning at this type of wavelength, and I'll use the word wavelength, where his connection to Hashem, his bond with Hashem, his yichida, his sense of oneness and unity, his singularity with God, was so powerful and overwhelming that the parallel concepts in the Torah's Yechida, in the Torah's neshama, the neshama simply flowed forth, because he was no longer in his person, he was no longer limited and constrained, circumscribed, and boxed in by the contours, by the limitations, by the confinement of the body. And it was specifically on the day of his passing that he was able to do that, because he was about to pass. So Vihine says the Rebbe, Bereshimis Tzemach Tzedek l'Tehillim, in the Tzemach Tzedek's gloss to Tehillim, on the verse Al Apostle Galei Neva Abitim Leflois B'Teira Secha, on the verse, open my eyes and I will gaze at wonders from your Torah. Maybe Maimer HaZayar Anal, he quotes the teaching of the Zayar quoted previously. Shebatera yesh levusha v'gufa v'nishmasa v'nishmasa v'nishmasa, that the Torah possesses a garment, a body, a soul, and a soul of the soul. And explains that the request to open my eyes and I will gaze at wonders, page 124. Reflects the desire that one should see not only the garment. This includes also the body, for the body is a garment of the soul, but also the soul of the Torah. In other words, according to the way that Tzemach Tzedek interprets this verse that we referred to earlier in the Maimer, God, please reveal, remove the concealment from my eyes. Va'abito, and I will be able to gaze at niflois, at the great beauty and the great incredible awesomeness of your Torah. This was a request that he be able to be made aware of and made to understand not just the levush, not just the garments of the Torah, not just the halacha of the Torah, but be able to be privy to the deeper inner mysticism, the neshama of the Torah, the soul of the Torah. So in the course of this explanation, maybe Peter Shashalo, he quotes the interpretation of Shalo, the Shnei Luchas Abrish, Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz, that gazing at the wonders involves comprehending the intentions that motivate the mitzvahs. So in other words, David HaMelech was requesting of Hashem that he not only be aware of the technical instructions of how to perform the mitzvahs, or the technical discussion about the nuances within the law, but rather he wanted to even know more than that. He wanted to understand the depth and the intent of the mitzvahs. Well, after quoting the interpretation of Shalom, the Tzemach Tzedek proceeds to explain that the wonders of the Torah refer to Pnimiyus Ha-Torah, the soul of the Torah. So now the Rebbe is asking a question. The Tzarech Lov, and his explanation here is necessary. To the Chayra, seemingly, after stating that the Torah possesses a garment, a body, a soul, and a soul of a soul, in his explanation of the verse, open my eyes, Tzemach Tzedek should have concluded the explanation by first stating the interpretation that the wonders of the Torah refer to the soul of the Torah. And then quote a different explanation of the term wonders, that the wonders refers to the intentions that motivate the mitzvahs. So the question here is, why did the Tzemach Tzedek intervene? Why did he interrupt his explanation and his commentary about the intent of David HaMelech's request by saying that there's another interpretation? By the way, that the request was that he be able to be privy to the inner meaning and the inner purpose of the mitzvahs, kavanas ha-mitzvahs, the focus of the mitzvahs, the intention of the mitzvahs, and only following this does he conclude saying that niflois, the awesomeness of your Torah, is actually a reference to the neshama, to the soul of the Torah. That should have come first. You might think that actually should come first. That would be that would seem to be the obvious thing to do, or the logical thing to do, and on that build with that, then you have the explanation of the Shalom that the neflois, that the awesomeness of the Torah is a reference to the intent of the mitzvahs. The fact that the Tzemach Tzedek cites this interpretation in the midst of his explanation, that the wonders refer to the soul of the Torah. The fact that he interjects with this statement that the neflois, that the awesomeness of Torah, the wonders of Torah, is a reference to the intent of the mitzvahs, and he injects that in the middle of his discussion how the wonders are referring to the soul of the Torah, and not specifically to the intent of the mitzvahs. Mashma indicates, page 125, Sha'apirush sheniflois ukavonos ha-mitzvahs, that the interpretation that the wonders of the Torah refer to the intention that motivate the mitzvahs relates to the explanation. It relates to the explanation and the comprehension of the interpretation that abito neflois ushiyir nishmas deraisa, of the interpretation that gazing at wonders refers to appreciating the soul of the Torah. So what he's saying here is that by injecting a additional explanation for the meaning of niflois, of the wonders that David HaMelech is asking to be privy to, which is, according to the Shalah, meant to be a reference to the intent of the mitzvahs. He injects that straight in the middle of talking about how the niflois, these wonders, are the highest level, the neshama of the Torah. Why does he inject with that? Why does he interrupt with it? Clearly, it's because there's a message here. Clearly, that explanation is germane, is truly fundamental to understanding the idea that Niflois, the wonders of the Torah, is a reference to the neshama, to the soul of the Torah. So we will continue with the next chapter in the next segment, God willing. Bez Hashem.